Step with me into the threshold where noise thins and meaning grows heavy, where a quiet resolve settles like a cloak across the shoulders. As Joseph Murphy once taught, the mind is a faithful instrument. It magnifies what we repeatedly accept as true and gently arranges life around the convictions we impress upon it. We begin not with escape, but with arrival. We stand not outside the world's storms, but within a wiser center that knows how to meet them. The secret place of Psalm 91 is not hidden from you, it is hidden in you. It is the practiced stance of consciousness beneath a higher order of life, the presence some call God, Source, the Most High. These words are not props for performance, they are coordinates for attention. When the psalm speaks of shadow and shelter, it is inviting a way of dwelling, choosing where your awareness abides and what story governs your heart. In that dwelling, protection is not superstition, it is alignment. It is the clarity that cuts through frenzy, the sobriety that steadies your hands when everything else wants to shake. Murphy's teaching makes the doorway plain. The subconscious accepts the seed you plant with feeling. Hold the idea of divine protection with reverent conviction, not as a desperate spell, but as reasonable trust, and the mind begins to build around it. Psalm 91 supplies living images. The mind translates those images into attitudes. Attitudes become decisions that shape outcomes. Call the Most High, the highest conception of good you can honestly form. To dwell in its shadow is to let that good be the reference point before you interpret any event, speak any word, or take any step. Modern life trains vigilance. Headlines, deadlines, and the endless scroll coach the nervous system to anticipate loss. Yet the secret place is counter-training. We do not deny risk. We retrain reflex. The psalm names arrows and terrors day and night, our translation, criticism that stings, uncertainty that prowls, unasked-for news that arrives at inconvenient hours. Protection here is not the promise of frictionless days. It is the regained capacity to meet each moment from composure and wisdom rather than from panic. Safety is not only the absence of danger, it is the presence of guidance. So we practice consciously, simply, consistently. Not theatrics, not hollow recitations, but agreement. Agreement with what? With the sturdier truth beneath the noise, that life is not against you, and that wisdom precedes your worry and extends beyond your line of sight. Agreement in thought. Declining the story that everything is conspiring to harm you. Agreement in feeling, lengthening the exhale until the body remembers steadiness. Agreement in word, one steady sentence that anchors the mind. Agreement in choice, the next right step, however small, taken from peace instead of fear. Picture a common scene. An email arrives carrying rumor of loss. A project falters, a call goes unanswered, and the stomach tightens. The untrained mind rushes to catastrophe and narrates doom before facts are gathered. In the secret place, the first seconds are reframed. You notice the tightening and allow it. You choose the reference point. I dwell under a larger shelter than this moment. Time slows. Questions improve. Counsel is sought if needed. The reply you draft is clear, measured, and firm. The circumstance may still be hard, but panic no longer drives the wheel. Between danger and damage, a space appears. And in that space, your protection often arrives as prudence, timing, or a well-placed no. The Psalm's images become tools, refuge and fortress, feathers and wings, a shield and buckler. Refuge is permission to step back mentally before speaking. Fortress is the boundary that declines dramas that are not yours to solve. Wings are the swift pivot from rumination to prayerful focus. A shield is the practiced refusal to adopt another's fear as your own. And the buckler, the small shield held close, is the phrase you carry when noise rises. I abide, I am guided, I am not alone. None of this is theatrical, it is craft. It is the artisan work of attention shaping how you meet the hour. There will be nights when sleep thins and thoughts rehearse worst-case scenes. There will be days when something breaks and the repair is long. The promise of Psalm 91 does not turn life into glass. It teaches glass workers' hands. You learn to hold heat without shattering. You learn to shape a response while the furnace roars. Murphy would say the impression you give the mind at such times, calm trust paired with wise action, becomes the pattern it repeats. Fear is not a monster to be hated. It is energy asking for instruction. In the secret place, you give that instruction. Stand down. Serve clarity. Listen closely, and you may notice that much of our pain is the story added to the facts. The facts, a delay, a diagnosis, a disappointment. The added story. This proves you are unprotected, unseen, alone. Dwelling in the secret place keeps editorial rights over that narrative. We do not lie to ourselves. We decline the lie that nothing good is at work. We allow the mustard seed possibility that good has not abandoned the scene. That small allowance is often enough to quiet the storm inside. So you can hear the next instruction, call this person, rest now, check that detail. And protection arrives by ordinary means that a frantic mind would miss. How do we enter this dwelling at the start of a day? With modesty. A quiet declaration before the calendar cracks open. Today I choose to abide in presence. Then align the body so the mind reads safety. A longer exhale, a steady posture, eyes lifted a shade above the problem. Carry a line from the psalm like a stone in your pocket, and touch it when you need to remember, wait, and center. Through the day when surprises come, return not with drama, but with a practiced turn of attention. At night, give thanks, not because the day was perfect, but because you were shown how to walk through it. Let this first movement set the tone for all that follows. We are not here to perform piety or collect phrases. We are here to cultivate a durable nearness to the source that makes courage possible. The secret place is a lived address. You revisit it every time you choose trust over turmoil, clarity over control, humility over certainty. We admit we do not see the whole, and yet we step as if goodness still holds the path. Begin here, and the promises of Psalm 91 stop being distant words and start becoming the way you inhabit your own life. Faith is more than a hopeful mood or a fragile wish. It is a deliberate stance, a living shield you carry into every hour, forged through practice and conviction. The promises of Psalm 91 are not magic words that bend life to your will. They are reminders of a reality that predates your worry, a truth that holds firm even when evidence seems scarce. Faith, as Joseph Murphy taught, is not blind belief. It is a mental blueprint impressed on the subconscious until it becomes the lens through which life is perceived. When that blueprint is strong, chaos may swirl, but your decisions remain steady, your speech measured, and your spirit unbroken. A shield does not remove the existence of battle. It enables you to face what comes without collapse. Fearful thoughts will still knock at the door, but faith instructs you not to let them set up residence. In the same way a craftsman polishes and maintains his tools, the spiritual seeker keeps the shield of faith oiled with truth and polished with daily reminders. The Psalm's imagery of refuge and fortress reflects a kind of inner structure, faith as an architecture built through attention, prayer, and disciplined thought. It does not appear overnight. It is constructed brick by brick, moment by moment, as you consistently reject the narrative of doom and affirm the presence of wisdom guiding your steps. Murphy emphasized that your subconscious will accept as truth what you impress upon it repeatedly with feeling. If you constantly rehearse danger, your nervous system becomes hypervigilant. If you dwell on divine safety, your body and mind find calm, and that calm often influences outcomes in surprising ways. The conscious choice to dwell in divine assurance shapes behavior. You drive more carefully, speak more thoughtfully, notice opportunities that fear would have blurred. Faith in this sense is pragmatic. It is not just a sentiment. It is a pattern of perception that leads to practical results. Consider how a seasoned sailor navigates rough waters. He does not panic when the waves rise, because his trust is not in calm seas, but in his training and the sturdiness of his vessel. Faith works the same way. You are not promised a life without storms. You are promised the ability to pass through them with wisdom and resilience. Psalm 91 repeats this truth with poetic insistence. You shall not fear, 1,000 may fall at your side, no evil shall befall you. These words are not naive. They are declarations that shape your interior world, which in turn informs your external actions. A shield is both defense and symbol. In ancient times, soldiers decorated their shields with images that reminded them of loyalty, family, or divine protection. Each shield carried a message. I fight not alone. Your faith serves a similar function. When you carry the conviction that life is fundamentally benevolent, that wisdom and love undergird your path, fear loses its grip. This conviction does not require you to deny danger, it requires you to reinterpret it. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" faith asks, "What guidance is here for me?" The question shifts energy. The mind calms, solutions surface. The practice of wielding faith as a shield begins in thought. Observe your mental habits. Do you anticipate betrayal, sickness, or failure at every turn? If so, your subconscious has been conditioned to expect attack, and life will often seem to confirm it. Murphy's counsel was to reverse this conditioning with deliberate mental imagery. Picture yourself safe, guided, surrounded by a presence that sees farther than you can. Speak softly to your mind. I dwell in safety. Wisdom directs me. I am held by a power greater than fear. These words, repeated often and paired with feeling, begin to etch a new pattern, a new inner expectation. Faith also requires boundaries. A shield is not only something you hold, it is something you know when to raise. When conversations spiral into anxiety, when news cycles attempt to dominate your mind, your shield is the quiet refusal to feed fear's appetite. This is not ignorance, it is discernment. You do not need to drink every cup handed to you, especially when it is poisoned with panic. The psalm says, His truth shall be your shield and buckler. Truth becomes a boundary that filters what enters your mind, protecting your spirit from the corrosion of constant dread. Over time, this shield strengthens your nervous system. The body mirrors the mind. As faith deepens, shoulders relax, breath slows, the heart steadies. This physiological calm is not mere placebo. It creates a state where problem-solving improves, relationships soften, and wise instincts surface. Many who live with deep faith report coincidences, narrow escapes, or unexpected assistance in times of need. Whether you view these as miracles or as the natural byproduct of living from trust rather than fear, the result is the same. You walk through life with greater ease and a sense of protection that transcends logic. The psalm does not promise immunity from every challenge. It promises presence within the challenge. Even the image of angels bearing you up, lest you dash your foot against a stone, suggests a stumble avoided, not a life without stones. Protection often arrives as guidance that redirects your steps just before harm strikes. That guidance is easier to hear when you are calm, and calmness is easier to cultivate when faith is your daily practice. Faith is not static. It breathes, grows, and strengthens with use. Think of an athlete's muscle memory. Each repetition teaches the body how to respond instinctively under pressure. Similarly, the repetition of affirming divine protection, meditating on Psalm 91, and aligning with Joseph Murphy's teachings trains your subconscious to default to trust rather than panic. When a sudden crisis arises, your first reflex will be composure instead of chaos, because you have rehearsed it mentally. Let this section impress upon you that faith is more than belief. It is a skill, a habit, a spiritual technology. Like a craftsman with a trusted tool, you learn its weight, its reach, its limitations. And yet, the more you practice, the more you discover that this shield is not merely yours. It is supported by the very presence you seek. That realization changes everything. You are not holding faith alone. Faith is holding you, and under that shield, you move through the world with confidence that no shadow can fully overtake you. Psalm 91 is not just a collection of comforting words. It is a mental blueprint, a living design for consciousness. When read as sacred poetry, its imagery inspires hope. When read as instruction, it becomes an architecture for thought, a framework you can deliberately inhabit. Joseph Murphy's teachings invite us to approach Scripture as more than devotion. He calls us to treat it as a manual for shaping the subconscious mind. This is why Psalm 91's promises carry such enduring power. They are not distant declarations. They are patterns that can be impressed upon thought and lived out in daily experience. Each line in this psalm is a deliberate mental imprint. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. This is more than reassurance. It is a call to construct a dwelling of thought, to train the mind to rest in the idea of divine safety. Dwell means to settle, to remain, to make it your address. Too often, people visit moments of peace like tourists, dipping in briefly before returning to frantic inner dialogue. The psalm offers a reversal, peace as home base, fear as a visitor. That shift in mental location changes everything. When calm becomes your residence, your decisions reflect clarity rather than reactivity. Murphy would say that the subconscious is like soil. It grows whatever seeds you plant. Psalm 91 is a packet of carefully chosen seeds: safety, deliverance, angelic guardianship, long life, salvation. But seeds are powerless if left in a drawer. They must be planted through repetition, meditation, and emotional conviction. Each verse is a blueprint that must be studied until it becomes instinctive. You shall not fear terror by night, pestilence that walks in darkness. Notice how vividly the psalm names fear's forms: the unseen, the unexpected, the creeping. It then counters each fear with a promise: protection, deliverance, safety. The pattern is intentional. The mind is retrained through imagery that replaces dread with assurance. This mental blueprint does not only affect your emotions, it influences your body. Neuroscience confirms what spiritual teachers like Murphy have long said: sustained thoughts alter neural pathways. The brain reorganizes itself to match dominant beliefs. When you consistently rehearse divine safety, your nervous system adjusts, calming the fight-or-flight response. This is why the psalmist's imagery is so physical. Feathers, wings, shields. They are tactile symbols, offering your mind something solid to hold on to. When fear floods in, these words become a lifeline, not because they magically erase circumstances, but because they stabilize perception long enough for wisdom to surface. Imagine designing a home. The blueprint determines how every wall, window, and hallway will flow. Likewise, a spiritual blueprint determines how you respond to life's turbulence. Without a conscious design, fear builds its own house in your mind, filling every corner with anxiety and suspicion. Psalm 91 invites you to redraw the plans. Instead of paranoia at every turn, you install windows of trust, doors of wisdom, and a sturdy foundation of divine presence. This is not sentimental imagery. It is a practical exercise in mental conditioning. Each verse is a construction beam. Each promise is a stabilizing pillar. The house of your mind can be fortified, but only if you follow the design. Murphy emphasized the law of belief. What you sincerely believe, you experience. That law works for or against you depending on what you accept. Many unknowingly live by a blueprint of fear, expecting betrayal, assuming failure, anticipating harm. Their subconscious builds accordingly, filtering out opportunities and amplifying threats. Psalm 91 is the corrective plan. By dwelling on its promises, you reprogram expectations. Slowly, your mind becomes less reactive, more observant, more centered. Opportunities once missed become visible because your inner blueprint no longer blinds you with dread. The Psalm's structure itself models this transformation. It begins with a declaration of dwelling, He who dwells. It moves to trust, I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge. Then it describes threats, naming terrors and arrows before returning to reassurance. 1,000 may fall at your side, it shall not come near you. The rhythm is deliberate, declaration, trust, fear acknowledged, fear reframed. This mirrors the cycle we experience: daily confidence, intrusion of fear, and the conscious decision to return to safety. By meditating on this rhythm, you train your mind to navigate the emotional tides of life without capsizing. Consider how a musician learns a piece of music. At first, every note is foreign and mistakes are frequent. Through repetition, muscle memory forms, and soon the song flows effortlessly. In the same way, meditating on Psalm 91 until its promises are second nature creates spiritual muscle memory. When crisis strikes, the mind instinctively recalls these words, offering stability even before conscious thought catches up. The blueprint becomes reflexive. You no longer scramble for calm because calm is built into your mental structure. The blueprint is not static. Each reading deepens its meaning. Early on, you may cling to the promises for comfort. Over time, you begin to embody them. No evil shall befall you becomes not just a hope, but a lens. Even in hardship, you look for the good that is still present, the lesson hidden within the trial, the unseen protection that kept things from being worse. This interpretation is not naive optimism. It is spiritual maturity. It is the shift from "why me" to "guide me." That shift changes physiology, decision-making, and the opportunities you notice. Murphy often said that divine power is infinite intelligence, and it responds to belief with precision. The more deeply you imprint safety, guidance, and divine order onto your subconscious, the more your daily life reflects those qualities. Psalm 91 is a workshop for this practice. Each verse is a mental exercise, strengthening your ability to hold peace even when your senses scream otherwise. Over time, this discipline becomes your natural stance. The Psalm's words are no longer external, they are the fabric of your inner world. Let this section settle into your awareness. Scripture is not merely for inspiration, it is a design for consciousness. Psalm 91 offers you a mental house built on unshakable trust, and Joseph Murphy's insight is the blueprint key. Study it, memorize it, live in it. As you do, you will find that protection is not only a divine promise, it becomes your practiced reality. There is a universal intelligence at work in the mind, a presence that shapes reality according to the patterns impressed upon it. Ancient teachings remind us that thought is creative, that what we hold with conviction eventually manifests in some form. Psalm 91 is a testament to this principle, illustrating that protection is not a random blessing, but a natural result of inner alignment. When consciousness is trained to dwell in divine safety, life often reorganizes itself to match that expectation. This is not superstition. It is a recognition of law, an acknowledgement that the mind and spirit are intimately connected to the unfolding of experience. The universal mind operates like a mirror. It reflects what is planted in the fertile soil of belief. When we cultivate trust, guidance appears. When we sow fear, chaos often multiplies. This is why the Psalm's vivid imagery is so powerful. You shall not fear the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day. These phrases are not mere poetry. They are mental codes, rewiring fear-laden instincts into confidence and resilience. The words serve as scaffolding for the subconscious, training it to expect protection rather than harm. Over time, this expectation becomes instinctive. Consider how every detail of life flows from mental patterns. A person convinced of constant danger interprets every sound as a threat, every delay as disaster, every unfamiliar face as a potential enemy. Their body remains in a state of vigilance, and their world seems to confirm their suspicions. But shift the internal pattern, and perception changes. A calm mind interprets the same sound as harmless, the delay as an opportunity, the stranger as neutral or even friendly. The outer world may not have changed, but the inner lens reframes it, and that reframing creates different choices, which lead to different outcomes. Psalm 91 is a training ground for this inner reorientation. To abide under the shadow of the Almighty is to live under a higher law than fear. This higher law is consistent. It governs creation, thought, and form. We see evidence of it in nature's cycles, in the growth of a seed, in the healing of a wound. The psalmist trusted that this same intelligence operates in the realm of protection, that unseen wisdom surrounds those who live in conscious alignment. When this truth becomes your mental default, you begin to sense guidance in subtle nudges, timely delays, and instinctual warnings that help you avoid harm. This intelligence does not force itself upon you. It responds to the impressions you hold. If you live expecting abandonment, you often overlook signals of care. If you assume life is hostile, every interaction feels like a battle. But if you deeply believe that you are guided, that protection is real, that a greater wisdom is invested in your journey, your mind becomes sensitive to opportunities for safety. You notice the detour that keeps you from harm, the intuitive pause that saves you from a poor decision. The Psalm's promises are not distant miracles. They are practical outcomes of a mind attuned to divine order. Let's look at the Psalm's structure through this lens. Each verse is both declaration and instruction. He is my refuge and my fortress. This is a mental blueprint. Your mind is instructed to see divine presence as a stronghold, not as an abstract idea, but as a living reality. Because you have made the Lord your dwelling place, no evil shall befall you. Here, safety is conditional upon a dwelling, a conscious choice of thought. You cannot expect stability if your mind constantly dwells on chaos. The dwelling place is built through meditation, affirmation, and trust. In practical terms, this means creating habits of thought that reinforce safety. Start and end your day with a verse from Psalm 91, not as ritual, but as recalibration. Breathe deeply as you repeat the words, allowing the body to register calm. Carry an image from the psalm, a shield, a shadow, wings, and call upon it in moments of tension. Over time, these practices create a new mental pattern. The subconscious begins to assume safety as a natural state, and that assumption alters your behavior, your perception, and often your outcomes. Spiritual law is impartial. It works according to belief. This truth is why so many traditions emphasize meditation, prayer, and visualization. These are tools to impress desired truths upon the deeper mind. When the psalm says, "He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you shall take refuge. It is giving your imagination a picture to hold. This picture is not childish. It is an ancient understanding of how the subconscious operates. The mind responds powerfully to imagery, and the psalm provides images that fortify trust. The interplay between conscious and subconscious thought is like a sculptor and clay. The conscious mind shapes, the subconscious takes form. Without direction, the clay hardens into whatever shape fear has left behind. But when the conscious mind takes hold of divine promises, repeating them until they feel natural, the clay reforms. This is why spiritual teachers through the ages have spoken of renewing the mind. It is not mere poetry. It is a literal repatterning of neural pathways, emotional reflexes, and spiritual receptivity. When this repatterning is consistent, life reflects it. Protection becomes a natural extension of who you are, not a rare event. People often describe moments of luck or coincidence that save them from harm, but those who live by spiritual law know that such moments are not luck. They are the natural fruit of alignment. Psalm 91 offers a map to this state of being. Its words guide attention away from fear and toward trust, anchoring the mind in a reality where divine presence is active, attentive, and near. Hold this understanding close. The psalm is not just to be read, it is to be lived. Its verses are alive, a living code that reorients your thoughts toward divine order. As this order takes root, protection ceases to be an abstract promise and becomes a practical, daily experience. This is the work of spiritual law, impartial, steady, always ready to meet belief with corresponding reality. In this truth, you are never without guidance, never without help, and never truly alone. To consciously agree with truth is to step into a partnership with divine order. Psalm 91 outlines promises, but those promises are invitations rather than automatic guarantees. They require your deliberate participation, your conscious agreement. Agreement is not passive assent, it is a whole-being alignment. The conscious mind affirms, the subconscious accepts, and the body responds. This is the inner mechanics of faith in action, transforming abstract belief into embodied reality. Agreement begins with awareness. Most people live in unconscious agreement with fear, scarcity, or chaos. These agreements are formed through repeated exposure, words overheard in childhood, news headlines, cultural narratives, or past experiences that left an imprint of insecurity. Without realizing it, these unspoken agreements govern responses, shaping expectations, and coloring perception. The psalm is a corrective voice, calling you to renegotiate these contracts. It offers a higher truth that there is a place of safety, a dwelling under divine shadow, and invites you to accept this as your ultimate reality. The power of conscious agreement is that it breaks cycles of reactivity. When fear surges, the subconscious defaults to old patterns, often triggering fight, flight, or freeze. Conscious agreement interrupts this automatic loop. You pause, breathe, and deliberately choose a new narrative. I abide in safety. This is not denial, it is recalibration. In that moment, you are telling your mind and body, we will not react from fear, we will act from faith. Over time, this deliberate redirection forms new pathways in the brain. The subconscious begins to expect safety, and that expectation influences behavior, timing, and even physiology. Think of agreement as a kind of spiritual contract. When you say, God is my refuge and fortress, you are not merely reciting words, you are signing your name to a reality. You are declaring, this is the truth I live by. Such statements, repeated with intention, sink deep into the subconscious. The psalm becomes not just a prayer, but a framework for your life. You walk with more assurance, make decisions from clarity, and meet adversity with calm, not because circumstances have magically disappeared, but because your inner contract with truth has redefined your response. Agreement also involves discipline. To agree with truth in a moment of crisis is one thing. To sustain that agreement in daily life is another. This is why practices like meditation, prayer, and mindful reading of Scripture are so essential. They renew your mind, re-establishing your alignment each day. In the same way a builder checks measurements constantly to ensure a structure stays true, you must continually check your inner alignment. Are your thoughts reflecting trust or fear? Are your words reinforcing safety or inviting anxiety? Conscious agreement means staying attentive to these subtle choices. The Psalm's imagery aids this process. When it says, "He shall cover you with his feathers," it gives your mind a vivid picture to hold. The subconscious speaks the language of imagery more than words, a single image of safety. A bird shielding its young beneath its wings can bypass intellectual resistance and plant a sense of security deep within. By returning to these images repeatedly, you strengthen agreement. Over time, the imagery becomes instinctual. In moments of uncertainty, your mind recalls the vision of protection automatically, anchoring you in peace. This process is not about blind repetition, it is about saturation. The mind, like a sponge, absorbs whatever it is soaked in. If you saturate your consciousness with fear, fear will guide your steps. If you saturate it with trust, trust will become your default posture. The psalm invites you to soak your mind in promises of safety, deliverance, and guidance until these truths feel more real than the chaos around you. This is not escapism, it is training. You are training your mind to prioritize truth over appearances, peace over panic. Consider the difference between unconscious reaction and conscious response. Reaction is immediate, unfiltered, and often rooted in fear. Response is deliberate, thoughtful, and aligned with wisdom. Conscious agreement cultivates response. It slows down the moment between stimulus and action, giving you the space to choose wisely. This is where divine protection often manifests, not as dramatic interventions, but as quiet wisdom that steers you away from danger. A sudden hesitation before stepping off a curb, a strong inner nudge to delay a decision. These are the fruits of alignment, subtle yet profound. The psalm emphasizes dwelling in the secret place, not visiting it occasionally. Agreement is about dwelling. It is choosing to remain mentally anchored in divine truth, even while living in a turbulent world. Dwelling requires practice, small daily acts of remembrance, brief pauses to realign, silent prayers in the midst of noise. Over time, this constancy turns faith into reflex. You no longer scramble for calm during crisis, because calm is already built into your system. In this way, conscious agreement is an act of power. It asserts your authority over your own mind, refusing to let fear write your narrative. It declares that divine wisdom is your compass, not the world's chaos, and it invites protection to become a lived reality rather than a distant hope. Psalm 91 is not merely a collection of comforting words, it is a covenant you choose to honor. Through this covenant, peace becomes your default, guidance your companion, and protection your natural experience. To practice this agreement is to live awake. It is to notice every time fear tries to take the pen and gently reclaim it, rewriting the story in alignment with truth. With each correction, the old agreements weaken and the new ones strengthen, until trust becomes second nature. This is the path of transformation, not sudden but steady, not loud but powerful. And as you walk this path, the promises of Psalm 91 cease to be distant scripture and become the architecture of your life. Fear has a way of creeping into the corners of thought, whispering stories that feel convincing because they are loud and persistent. Left unchecked, it becomes a lens through which every event is interpreted. Yet, fear is not an enemy to be crushed. It is a messenger revealing where trust has not yet taken root. Transformation begins not by denying fear, but by facing it with understanding, then choosing a higher narrative. Psalm 91 is a manual for this transformation, not by promising a life without danger, but by training the mind to dwell in safety even when shadows loom. When fear speaks, it often claims certainty. This will happen. You will fail. You are alone. These statements gain power because they mimic authority. The first step in transforming fear is to question its authority. Who declared this outcome inevitable? What evidence truly exists? The Psalm's words act as a counterweight, offering a stronger authority. You shall not fear. It shall not come near you. These are not shallow reassurances. They are declarations meant to interrupt the spiral of dread. By repeating them with conviction, you signal to the subconscious that another reality is available, and over time, it begins to respond. Transformation is not achieved through willpower alone. Fear is rooted deeply in the nervous system, often anchored by past experiences. That is why imagery in Scripture is so potent. Phrases like "under his wings" or "a shield and buckler" engage the imagination, bypassing intellectual resistance. The mind can argue with logic, but it softens in the presence of imagery. When you picture yourself safe, covered, and supported, the body responds. Breathing slows, muscles unclench, and a sense of inner stability emerges. This physiological calm is not merely pleasant. It is a gateway to clarity, allowing better choices and sharper discernment. Consider fear as raw energy like electricity. Left unchanneled, it shocks and burns. Properly directed, it illuminates and powers movement. The Psalm teaches us to channel this energy, not suppress it. Fear can become a signal. Pay attention. Seek wisdom. Realign with truth. Once acknowledged, it can be converted into focus and prayer, into heightened sensitivity to divine guidance. This is transformation, not erasing fear, but refining it into awareness and trust. One practical way to achieve this is through breath and word. When fear arises, pause and breathe deeply, pairing each breath with a verse. He is my refuge and fortress. The act of breathing grounds the body, while the words steady the mind. Over time, this practice conditions your system to respond with peace rather than panic. Fear no longer commands your every move. Instead, it becomes a cue to return to the dwelling place described in the Psalm. Transformation also requires a willingness to let go of old stories. Many fears are inherited, passed down from family narratives, cultural messages, or formative experiences. They feel like reality because they have been rehearsed for years. But these narratives are not immovable. Each time you affirm divine protection, each time you choose calm over reaction, you weaken fear's hold. You rewrite the script your subconscious has been following, replacing it with a story rooted in trust. This is slow work, but it is lasting. Fear may visit, but it no longer builds a home in your mind. The Psalm speaks of thousands falling, yet harm not coming near. This imagery is dramatic because life's challenges often feel overwhelming. Yet this verse is not about living in denial. It is about cultivating discernment. You may witness chaos around you, but your inner life does not need to mirror that chaos. Protection is not always the absence of external turmoil, but the presence of inner guidance that keeps you steady amidst it. This steadiness is a form of safety in itself. It prevents rash decisions, conserves energy, and allows you to see solutions hidden by fear's fog. Fear thrives in isolation. When you feel cut off from support, its voice grows louder. Psalm 91 reminds us that fear's isolation is an illusion. The Most High is not distant. The imagery of wings and shelter emphasizes closeness. This truth is not meant to comfort in a sentimental way, but to establish a deep reality. You are connected to a source of wisdom and care greater than your immediate perception. When that connection is remembered, fear loses some of its bite. It cannot dominate a mind anchored in a presence larger than itself. Transforming fear also means cultivating gratitude. Gratitude is not denial, it is a shift in focus. Even in difficult moments, noticing what remains steady breath, shelter, a friend's support reorients the mind. Gratitude is a training ground for trust. It reinforces the message that protection has already been present in countless ways, that you have been guided before and will be again. Over time, gratitude builds an internal record of faithfulness, a collection of memories you can draw upon when fear tries to rewrite your future. When this transformation becomes habit, fear no longer dictates your choices. It becomes a fleeting signal, quickly answered by truth. You carry yourself differently, shoulders relaxed, gaze steady, movements measured. Others may sense your calm and draw courage from it. This is part of what it means to dwell in the secret place, to embody stability in an unstable world, becoming a living demonstration of divine shelter. The Psalms' promises take root in you, not as abstract verses, but as a lived reality visible in your posture, your speech, and your decisions. In the end, fear is not your enemy. It is a teacher that points you toward the truth you have forgotten. Each encounter with fear becomes an opportunity to reaffirm your covenant with divine protection. This is the essence of transformation, not to live a life without fear, but to live a life where fear no longer governs you. Under the shadow of the Almighty, fear loses its sting, and in its place grows a quiet, unshakable certainty. The Psalm's imagery of angels is more than poetic flourish. It is a symbol of divine intelligence at work in ways unseen, a reminder that protection is not merely external intervention, but a dynamic process occurring within the mind and spirit. When it says, "He shall give his angels charge over you to keep you in all your ways," it invites us to imagine a world alive with guidance, where every step is observed by wisdom and every decision is influenced by a higher order of care. These angels can be understood as spiritual forces, inner guardians, or even heightened intuition awakened by faith. Their presence reminds us that we are never navigating life entirely alone. In many traditions, angels represent messengers, agents of divine insight and direction. Within the mind, this imagery aligns with the way intuition operates. That quiet inner nudge, the sudden idea that prevents a mistake, the inexplicable delay that keeps you safe, all of these can be seen as angelic interventions. Whether you view them as literal beings or symbolic representations of divine order, the effect is the same. Awareness of these guiding forces cultivates confidence. You begin to walk through life with trust rather than suspicion, because you know that protection is not accidental, but woven into the very fabric of existence. Meditating on angelic imagery strengthens this inner assurance. The mind responds deeply to symbols, and the picture of being carried, lest you dash your foot against a stone, communicates a profound truth. You are supported in ways your rational mind cannot always comprehend. When fear tightens its grip, recalling this image softens it. The subconscious absorbs pictures more readily than abstract affirmations. When you see yourself in your mind's eye, guided by light and surrounded by unseen guardians, the nervous system begins to relax, and your choices reflect that calm. The inner guardianship symbolized by angels also represents discernment. Guidance is not only about physical safety, it extends to relationships, decisions, and opportunities. Many regrets stem from ignoring subtle warnings. a feeling that something was off, an impression to wait before committing. These signals are part of divine intelligence, communicating through your own awareness. Psalm 91 reminds us that there is an intelligent order willing to keep us in all our ways, but we must cultivate sensitivity to its whispers. By honoring those small nudges, we often sidestep unnecessary pain. There is a humility required to live under this kind of guidance. It means admitting that your limited perspective cannot see every danger or opportunity. You acknowledge that protection sometimes looks like disappointment, a door closing, a plan unraveling, a relationship ending abruptly. Without trust, these moments feel like rejection or failure. But with faith, you begin to see them as angelic interventions, forces keeping you from a path that would have harmed you. The Psalm's imagery reminds you that divine guardianship is active, even when it does not align with your expectations. Some may struggle with this idea, feeling unworthy of such care or doubting its existence. Yet the Psalm speaks in absolutes. He shall give his angels charge over you. It is not a tentative offer. It is a declaration. This declaration can be internalized until it becomes part of your self-concept. You are not a victim of random chaos. You are a participant in a universe governed by intelligence and love. This awareness shifts your energy and your actions. You walk with a quiet dignity, aware that you are not unprotected. This confidence is not arrogance. It is rooted in reverence for the source that sustains all life. Inner guardianship also requires cooperation. Guidance is not forced upon you. It must be received. If you ignore repeated signs, dismiss intuition, or live in constant distraction, the voice of wisdom becomes faint. Practicing stillness, prayer, and meditation strengthens your sensitivity to divine direction. Like learning a new language, it requires repetition and attention. Over time, you develop an inner ear, attuned to subtle signals, and this discernment becomes a powerful form of protection. Angelic imagery also serves a deeper psychological purpose. The subconscious often carries wounds from early life, where safety may have felt absent or inconsistent. Visualizing yourself surrounded by light or guarded by angels begins to rewrite these scripts. The mind does not easily distinguish between vivid imagination and physical experience. Repeated visualization can restore a sense of safety at a cellular level. This is why spiritual imagery has endured for centuries. It reaches places words cannot. By regularly meditating on Psalm 91's angelic promises, you are reparenting your nervous system, teaching it to trust in the presence of unseen help. Some people describe moments of divine intervention with awe, accidents narrowly avoided, unexpected help arriving at the right moment, intuitive flashes that change their path. These experiences, though often dismissed as coincidence, align with the Psalm's message. When your mind is trained to see life as guided, you begin to recognize patterns of care that were previously invisible. Gratitude deepens, and your faith strengthens. Not because you live in denial of danger, but because you've witnessed enough evidence to trust that you are not abandoned. Ultimately, the angelic imagery of Psalm 91 is not meant to make you feel small or passive. It is meant to empower you. It teaches that you are not navigating life in isolation. You are part of a network of divine intelligence that is actively invested in your well-being. Embracing this truth creates a deep sense of stability, allowing you to act boldly in the world while remaining rooted in peace. Fear loses its grip because you know that guidance is present. And as this awareness grows, you begin to embody that same protective energy for others, becoming a source of wisdom, calm, and direction for those who cross your path. To dwell in the secret place of the Most High is to live in constant awareness of divine presence, not as a fleeting moment of prayer, but as a continual state of being. This is the heart of Psalm 91. Protection is not a passing intervention, it is a natural byproduct of alignment. Dwelling implies stability, permanence, and intimacy. It is choosing to make your mental and spiritual home in an atmosphere of trust rather than fear, allowing that presence to become the baseline of your consciousness. This is not escapism. It is the foundation of clarity in a world that constantly seeks to shake your focus. Presence is not something you summon, it is something you become aware of. The psalm teaches us that divine nearness is constant, but our recognition of it fluctuates. Life's noise pulls attention outward, and anxiety thrives in this distracted state. Dwelling in presence is the art of returning again and again to the quiet certainty that a higher intelligence governs your steps. This returning is not dramatic. It is often subtle, like the gentle correction of posture when you notice you're slouching. With practice, it becomes natural. Your mind learns to settle quickly, even amid chaos, because home is not a location, but a consciousness of divine reality. This law of dwelling has a practical effect. It anchors you. Many people live as if blown by emotional winds, moods, headlines, other people's opinions. Dwelling establishes a center. It does not make you indifferent, it makes you steady. You respond with wisdom rather than reflex because your decisions come from a deeper place. This is what Scripture calls abiding under the shadow of the Almighty. The shadow is not a place of darkness, but of covering, symbolizing proximity. To be in the shadow of something is to be close to it. Dwelling in presence means walking so near to divine reality that its shadow naturally falls over you. This proximity is cultivated through attention. The law of the mind is simple. Whatever you consistently focus on becomes dominant in your awareness. Fear grows through fixation. Peace grows through attention to presence. Dwelling is not achieved by occasional inspiration, but by daily practice. A quiet moment in the morning, a pause before speaking, a whispered prayer in traffic. These seemingly small actions are bricks in the house of dwelling. Over time, they build a subconscious habit of safety. When danger threatens, you don't scramble for calm. You move from a calm that is already established. Psalm 91 offers images that reinforce this dwelling: a fortress, a refuge, a shelter. Each image carries a feeling of permanence. A fortress is not a temporary structure, it is built to endure. A shelter is not improvised, it is prepared. These words remind the subconscious that divine protection is not fragile. When you meditate on them, you begin to feel this permanence in your own body. Your breathing deepens, your muscles loosen, your thoughts slow. This bodily response is part of spiritual practice. Presence is not only a mental state, it is experienced physically, creating a feedback loop that reinforces peace. Dwelling also transforms your relationship with time. Fear thrives on projection, imagining what might happen tomorrow, next week, next year. Dwelling anchors you in the present moment, where guidance is clearest. You may not know every future step, but you know the next one, and that is enough. The psalm encourages this trust. He shall cover you, you shall not fear. He shall give his angels charge over you. Each promise is written in present or near future tense, pulling your focus into the now. Presence is always here. Fear is always about then. By training yourself to dwell in the here, fear loses much of its power. Living in presence also sharpens discernment. When your mind is calm, intuition is easier to hear. Decisions are made from wisdom, not panic. Sometimes protection manifests not as miraculous intervention, but as insight that prevents harm. You recognize unhealthy dynamics sooner, feel prompted to delay a trip, or notice subtle warning signs in a conversation. This discernment is not luck. It is the natural fruit of dwelling. A mind anchored in presence has more room to notice details that a fearful mind overlooks. This practice does not remove you from the world, it equips you to engage with it. Some fear that living in constant spiritual awareness will make them disconnected or passive. The opposite is true. When you are rooted in presence, your actions are more decisive because they are not fueled by fear. You can step into challenging situations with a calm authority that others can feel. Your presence becomes a stabilizing force for those around you because you are carrying something deeper than yourself. Dwelling in presence also requires trust in divine timing. When you abide in this awareness, you begin to see patterns, moments of delay that protected you, coincidences that placed you in the right place at the right time. This recognition strengthens faith. The mind relaxes its need to control everything because it senses that there is an intelligence already orchestrating events. The Psalm's promises become more than words, they become your experience. Ultimately, the law of dwelling is about relationship. The Psalm does not describe a distant deity, but a close protector, wings that cover, hands that hold, a shadow that shields. To dwell here is to enter into intimacy, a daily companionship that steadies you. It is not about escaping danger, but about walking through life with an inner assurance that nothing can truly harm your spirit. As this becomes your reality, fear gives way to confidence, chaos loses its grip, and peace becomes your natural state. This is the true power of presence, not to take you out of the world, but to make you unshakable within it. Protection becomes most meaningful when it moves beyond the realm of meditation and enters the rhythms of daily life. Psalm 91 was never meant to remain only a sacred text recited in solitude. It is a guide for action, a reminder that trust and wisdom should shape every choice we make. The promises of this psalm come alive when they inform how you speak, respond, work, and relate to others. Safety is not simply the absence of danger, it is a cultivated atmosphere, a field of energy you carry with you into each moment, influencing the world around you as much as it steadies your own heart. Applying these principles begins with how you start your day. The moment your feet touch the floor in the morning is an opportunity to establish your dwelling place in presence. A brief moment of gratitude, a whispered affirmation of safety, or simply breathing with awareness invites peace to set the tone for the hours ahead. This intentional beginning shifts your nervous system before the noise of the world intrudes, reminding you that you walk through life under a greater covering. By making this a consistent ritual, you create a protective rhythm that strengthens resilience. The way you interact with others is also transformed by this mindset. When you truly believe you are guided and guarded, fear-based reactions begin to dissolve. You are less defensive in conversations, less likely to take offense, and more willing to extend grace. Psalm 91's assurance that you are kept in all your ways translates to relationships. You trust that wisdom will give you the right words, the right boundaries, and the right timing. Even challenging interactions become opportunities to practice calm authority rather than reactive emotion. Over time, people notice the difference. Your steady demeanor becomes a quiet testimony of your inner dwelling. This practice extends to your work and responsibilities. The Psalm's language of refuge and fortress is not limited to moments of crisis. It applies to every decision, every task. Approaching work from this posture shifts motivation. Instead of striving from anxiety or exhaustion, you begin to move with a sense of flow, trusting that creativity and clarity will arise as needed. Protection is not only about avoiding harm, it's about preserving energy, wisdom, and peace so you can perform with excellence without burning out. This balance is part of the Psalm's promise. To keep you in all your ways includes sustaining your well-being while you engage with the demands of life. Protection also influences how you navigate public spaces and travel. Many people move through the world with a subtle undercurrent of tension, bracing for harm in unfamiliar environments. But when the Psalm's truths are deeply internalized, you carry a sense of safety wherever you go. This does not mean being reckless, it means being attentive without being paranoid. Discernment sharpens, intuition becomes clearer, and unnecessary fear no longer drains your energy. You become an example of calm alertness, aware but not anxious. Practicing this presence in daily movement also helps you notice divine timing. The Psalm's imagery of angels bearing you up often manifests in subtle synchronicities. Meeting the right person at the right time, sensing when to leave a situation, or receiving unexpected help. These events may appear coincidental, but those who live anchored in this truth see them as evidence of a higher order guiding their steps. Gratitude deepens each time you witness this protection at work, reinforcing your trust in its constancy. Family life and community relationships are also strengthened by this posture. A home built on trust radiates a sense of safety that affects everyone within it. Words spoken from faith rather than fear create a nurturing environment where others feel secure and supported. The Psalm's promises can be spoken over your loved ones, not as superstitious incantations, but as conscious declarations that align your household with peace. Children especially absorb this atmosphere. They thrive when they sense that their caregivers carry a calm, steady confidence. This is how divine protection extends beyond yourself, through the emotional climate you create. Technology and constant media exposure often amplify fear. Every notification carries the potential for bad news, and this unfiltered stream of information can erode inner peace. Applying Psalm 91 practically means being intentional about what you allow into your mind. Choosing boundaries around news consumption, social media, and conversations is a form of spiritual protection. You are not ignoring reality. You are curating your mental environment so that your subconscious is not constantly bombarded with fear. In this way, you preserve your inner dwelling place as a sanctuary, a place of renewal from which you can re-engage the world with strength. Daily application also requires humility. Even as you trust in protection, you acknowledge that wisdom often expresses itself through practical action, locking doors, seeking counsel, maintaining health, and setting boundaries. Spiritual protection is not an excuse for carelessness. It is a partnership with divine intelligence. By doing your part with diligence, you open the door for grace to operate fully. This balance between trust and responsibility is where peace flourishes. You no longer oscillate between paranoia and passivity, but live with steady confidence and discernment. Over time, these daily practices weave protection into the fabric of your life. The Psalm is no longer just a chapter you read. It becomes a reality you embody. Strangers sense it in your calm demeanor. Friends notice it in your wisdom. Family feels it in the peace of your home. You become a living testimony. That trust in divine presence is not an abstract idea, but a practical force that shapes environments, influences decisions, and safeguards paths. In a world often ruled by fear, your life becomes a refuge, inviting others to seek the same shelter. To be sealed in divine assurance is to reach a place where trust is not an effort, but a natural state, where the promises of Psalm 91 have moved from words on a page to the architecture of your inner life. Assurance is deeper than optimism. Optimism hopes circumstances will improve. Assurance knows that even if storms rage, you are anchored. It is the calm that comes when you've walked through enough valleys to realize you were never truly alone, that every step was observed, every prayer heard, every tear noticed. This is not naive confidence, it is seasoned trust, forged through experience and grounded in spiritual law. The psalm closes with a series of declarations spoken from the voice of the divine. Because he has set his love upon me, therefore I will deliver him. I will be with him in trouble. I will deliver him and honor him. With long life I will satisfy him and show him my salvation. These are not abstract blessings. They are a covenant. They describe a relationship, not a transaction. Assurance is born from this relationship. It is not something you strive to create through repetition alone. It grows through intimacy, through dwelling so long in the secret place that your heart is convinced of its reality. This assurance shifts your entire orientation toward life. Instead of reacting with fear, you begin to expect wisdom. Instead of bracing for harm, you anticipate guidance. This shift does not mean pain disappears, it means pain is met differently. You stop asking, "Will I be okay?" and start declaring, "I am held, I am guided, I am never abandoned." When this truth settles deep into your being, it changes how you carry yourself. Your posture is steadier, your voice calmer, your presence more grounded. People around you sense this assurance and often feel safer in your company because you have become a channel of peace. Being sealed in this way also alters your relationship with time. Many live under a constant shadow of what if, projecting fear into the future. Assurance brings you back to even now. It is a realization that protection is not a promise you're waiting for. It is a present reality. Even in moments that feel chaotic, there is a higher order at work. This awareness frees you from compulsive worry and allows you to make decisions from clarity. You become less reactive, more discerning, and more attuned to subtle guidance. The psalm speaks of satisfaction with long life, not merely in terms of years, but of quality. A long life filled with constant anxiety is not true satisfaction. Assurance offers a richness of days, a depth of presence that makes each moment feel whole. To live in divine protection is to live fully awake, fully engaged, without being consumed by fear. The shadow of the Almighty becomes a resting place, a refuge that is not fragile or temporary, but enduring and secure. Reaching this level of trust is not a sudden achievement. It is the culmination of all that has been built in previous sections. The steady practice of faith, the blueprint impressed on the mind, the conscious agreements with truth, the transformation of fear into certainty, and the cultivation of angelic awareness and presence. These practices have trained your mind to dwell here, and now assurance is not something you seek. It is something you carry. You are not straining to believe. Belief has become your natural atmosphere. This sealing of assurance creates a ripple effect. Your inner peace radiates outward, influencing family, friends, colleagues, and even strangers. Environments respond to the energy you bring. When you walk into a room with genuine confidence rooted in presence, tension often softens. This is part of the Psalm's promise. Those who dwell in the secret place become living examples of divine shelter. Others feel safer around you because you are no longer governed by fear. You have become a lighthouse, not because life is perfect, but because your foundation is immovable. Assurance also deepens humility. It is not arrogance to trust in divine care. It is recognition that protection is not earned but received. You do not claim invincibility. You claim closeness. The psalmist's words remind us that this assurance is rooted in love, because he has set his love upon me. Love is the key. Trust grows from love, and love deepens through trust. As this relationship matures, the distinction between prayer and daily living blurs. Every breath becomes a form of communion, every step an act of faith. In this place, fear may still knock, but it no longer finds an open door. Doubt may whisper, but its voice carries little weight. You are not naive to danger. You are anchored in something greater than danger. Assurance is not denial, it is perspective. It allows you to acknowledge risk while remaining unshaken, to see pain while holding peace, to move forward with courage even when circumstances are uncertain. This balance is the fruit of dwelling, the evidence that Psalm 91 is not merely recited, but embodied. Now the Psalm's promises are not only a comfort for difficult days, but a compass for every step. They inform your speech, shape your decisions, and remind you of your worth. You are covered, guided, and deeply loved. This realization is not just for moments of crisis, it is the foundation of a life lived with quiet strength. To be sealed in divine assurance is to finally rest, not in complacency, but in confidence. It is to know that no matter where you go, you walk under a shadow that will never leave you. As the final echoes of this journey settle in, take a slow breath and notice the weight of peace resting on your shoulders. These words have not been merely ideas to entertain your mind. They have been living seeds, planted deep into the soil of your consciousness. Psalm 91 was never meant to be distant poetry, but a living promise, a reminder that divine protection is not something you chase, but something you carry. You have walked through its imagery, the secret place, the shadow of the Almighty, the wings that cover, the angels that keep watch. Each picture has been an invitation to dwell, to root yourself in an unshakable reality that transcends fear. This is the lasting work of assurance. It rewires the nervous system, reshapes thought, and realigns perspective until peace becomes second nature. Even in a chaotic world, this inner sanctuary remains accessible. You are not at the mercy of every storm. You are anchored in something eternal. And this anchoring does not isolate you. It empowers you to move boldly, speak with clarity, and extend calm to those around you. The Psalm's promises are not a shelter for only one, but a light you now carry into every room you enter. Let tonight be a settling into that truth. Release the tension your body has been holding. Let your mind unclench. Remind yourself gently that you are watched over, guided, and deeply loved. Nothing can separate you from this presence. Nothing can undo the security that has been woven into your being. If you close your eyes, let these words sink deeper than thought, into the very rhythm of your breath. You are safe. You are seen. You are held. And in this safety, you are free to rest. Tomorrow will come, but for now, peace is here, and it is enough.